Yeah.
Well, the general theme, I think what I've been asked the most questions about has to do with this dollar being replaced. And certainly
Boy, that's a big one, isn't it?
That is the biggest, the number one. Will something else, the yuan, the SDR, take your pick, the Amero, replace the dollar as the world's currency unit? And nothing will replace the dollar in the short term. If we're having the same amount of fun in 2020, we'll still be talking about the dollar as the preeminent currency in the world.
Do you think people argue that the whole thing with Libya, Turkey, Iraq, Afghanistan, it's really ultimately about protecting the dollar? Is that true?
Yes.
In your opinion?
Yes, it is.
Follow the bouncing ball there. How is that about?
Okay,
what's
so the very last thing that Saddam Hussein did, right, was write a letter to the UN that said,
not good idea.
I don't want to be paid for my oil for food program. I don't want to be paid in dollars anymore. I want to be paid in euro. And immediately, major oil companies started selling dollars and buying euro so that they could buy this oil.
Okay.
And this put pressure on the dollar. In the case of Libya, Muammar was more than vocal about his desire to start a gold-backed dinar and to sell his oil for these dinar.
And he was also talking about a regional plan.
That's right.
Right. I mean, this wasn't just Libya.
No.
He had the big vision.
Yeah, he wanted everyone in every one of the oil-producing nations in that region to get behind this, which is why he didn't say, it'll be my dinar. It'll be a gold-backed dinar.
It'll be a gold-backed. And what were they going to call it? Was it like a... oh, well.
Doesn't matter. It's over now.
Yeah, it's over now.
Yeah, so... the idea that any country that comes onto the world stage, and remember the one before that was the Iranian oil bourse.
Right, yeah.
Iran was going to start an oil bourse in Tehran.
That was about, 5 years ago? 6 years ago?
And they were going to sell oil for something other than dollars.
And before you know it, they start talking about how the Iranians are trying to do a nuclear weapon.
And how we need to really get in there and shake those boys up.
And how Israel starts to... really,
what do they call that? Saber rattling
for Iran. Isn't that curious?
Yeah, Iran is a problem, and we got to deal with them, and we have to deal with them right now.
Right.
But then Iran says, you know what? Maybe we aren't going to do an oil bourse. Oh, well, in that case,
everybody's kind of cozy with
Iran.
You're
good
these
now.
days. Yeah.
That's all. You can, do anything else you want. Just don't. Let's not hear any more of that foolish talk.
But now, though, these days, there's more and more countries that, of course, the BRICS and China and are doing all kinds of deals, supposedly.
Yeah, but none involve an oil-producing nation saying that it doesn't want to be paid for its oil in dollars.
Well, isn't China going to? I mean, isn't China going to ultimately do it? Well, they don't have oil, but I mean, Russia and the ruble and
wouldn't that make that? If Russia was, wouldn't that be the first and most logical thing? Russia says, okay, we're not going to sell our natural gas or our oil for dollars anymore.
Haven't they done that?
No.
No.
No. No.
No?
No.
They still do it for dollars.
Yeah. And let me tell you, we still haven't shut the Russian banks out of the SWIFT system. So it would take a single stroke of a key to shut the Russian banks out of the SWIFT system, and it would be game over for Russia. So they'd be unable to move dollars through the SWIFT system. Done.
I thought you said if Iraq or somebody else or Iran or anybody wants to sell their oil for dinar, they could do it as long as...
They don't sell it for less.
They don't sell it for less.
Well...
They get away with it.
Yeah, maybe. But any price difference...
But why would they? What's the difference?
Well, again, it's intent. It's all about intent. If their intent is to unseat the dollar and move it down a peg, and they offer to sell their oil for 10 cents less.
Not good.
If you pay us in euro, then everyone who buys oil will immediately start selling dollars to get euro to buy oil for 10 cents less.
Not a wise move.
No, no. And I think it would be met with very severe action. So this is what you keep an eye on because nothing else matters. As long as oil and gas and things of that nature are priced in dollars, then the Federal Reserve is free to create as many dollars as the world requires to buy this fuel. The moment that switch occurs, now suddenly they don't need dollars anymore to buy oil or to buy gas, and so they don't buy dollars. They, in fact, sell them and buy whatever it is that is now being used to buy this oil and gas. By itself, that would put a death peg in the dollar. And that's really what you need to look out for. Not bilateral trade agreements where, you give me your wood, I'll give you my coal. But, hey, I produce oil, we produce oil, and we're going to sell it for something less than dollars in euro or yuan or rubles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Imagine what that would do to the Russian currency if Vladimir Putin said, okay, we're only going to sell our oil for rubles. So now you have to buy rubles that are produced by the Russian central bank. Where what's your choice? You take your
wouldn't
dollars.
that be good for Russia?
You bet it would be good for the Russian currency.
Well, why doesn't Putin do that?
Good question. Why doesn't Putin do that? Yeah,
I mean, with all these, what do they call them? That's being put on him.
Yeah,
what do they
sanctions?
Call sanctions.
Yeah,
with all the saber rattling going on between he and Obama.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's kind of a feisty guy. Drinks his vodka. I mean, why doesn't he do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who his advisors are, but if he really wants to poke the giant in the eye, that's all he's got to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just that simple.
Well, he's got.
And then, of course, the next day, I imagine Russian banks will be unable to conduct transactions in dollars. So, then.
Then the plot thickens, right?
Yeah, it gets really thick.
Yeah.